Ladies and gentlemen. And a very good evening to everybody who is on. This is another episode of the Sherrin Stand, brought to you by the Hopper Bros Barbecue. For all your tips and tricks and everything barbecue, make sure you give them a follow on Instagram, and also Dragon Pressure Washing for all your pristine pressure washing household needs. Make sure you give the channel a message, and we'll get you in contact with Daniel, and he'll hook you up 10% discount on your first job. Boys, Hatterz, Dan, how are we?
Yeah, good boy.
Yeah, flat. Feeling a bit flat after the events of the weekend.
Yeah, I'm. It's probably taken a good solid 24 hours to sort of accept it more than anything. But yeah, it is what it is. Can't win them all, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I guess it's easier being a preliminary final loser than a grand final loser, I guess.
Yeah, still pretty angry, but I'm sure we'll get into it.
Yeah.
Well, there's heaps of people in the chat. Boz is in, Mello's in, Nathan Hopper from the Hopper Bros Barbecue's in. Thank you for joining. Nate Talks Pies has joined us, which is awesome. Benny Zero is in, and we also have Mello, who's become a YouTube member, so thank you so much for that. RJ is in the house as well. Thank you for coming up to me at the game on Saturday too and saying g'day. And there was a few people that actually came up to me on Saturday. I wasn't, not that I'm keeping count. There was about 12 people that came up and said hi, which was good. So it means everybody is watching the channel, which is awesome. But boys, I reckon we just fire straight away and get into the first jab.
Shame on anyone to boot a champion.
Sometimes it may be good, sometimes it may be shit.
Floor's yours, mate.
Okay, we'll kick it off with the AFL and their inconsistencies with sanctions towards players. Now, we've seen this year Isaac Rankin get first of all, a 5-week, well, what expected was a 5-week suspension. Then the AFL somehow managed that to be a 4-week suspension. Then we've seen just this weekend, Dane Zorko, grappling at the eyes and the goggles of Mason Cox. $5,000 fine. Where does that come through? I mean, Coxie's wearing those goggles so he can actually see to play the game. And then of course, down the highway, Bailey Smith, second time that he's abused an accredited female photographer. And what happens to Bailey Smith? Nothing. No fine, no sanction, not even a suspended sentence. Of course, Bailey Smith just gets off. That's my first jab. The AFL, you're a disgrace.
And he took a photo with Dill, Andrew Dillon, with his glasses on at the Brownlow. And it's just smacks of just. It's just total hypocrisy that he whinges about, being at training and getting a photograph taken in a legitimate area. The person's accredited; she's allowed to take photos. He does all sorts of modelling with his top off, and he sooks about a photographer taking a photo of him, and abuses it. Not just once. Like if it happened once, and you go, okay, well you apologise and you move on from it. But it's the second time he's done it this year, and no fine, not even a suspended sentence hanging over him. It just reeks of just so much rubbish from the AFL. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, but that they're very based on equality, like they're very woke as well. And then you have a player that abuses a female doing her job. Like, she's doing her job. She's not doing anything wrong. She's a photographer. And he's told her to F off and all sorts of stuff. It's like, mate, you can't
that's to me, it is as bad as what Rankin did. It's a
Yeah.
female just doing her job, and you pick up using it. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's the thought that came into my head in regards to it being like a female, and we've moved on the last since the AFLW, particularly in our game, has come along. The tolerance about this type of stuff has changed, and woke is the correct word, but there's also just don't be a rude bastard at the same time. You know what I mean? Like there's that element in it as well, and especially to somebody who's doing their job. It's not as if it's a some sort of he's not some actor. It's paparazzi chasing him, whatever it is. I mean, you're at training, you're gonna have these people that are gonna do that sort of thing too. So
it's not like she was in the in the change rooms at Cardinia Park, popped up out of the corner of a shower and took a photo of him. He's sitting there in his full gear. He's not naked or anything like that. And she's taking a photo so it can be on the back page of the paper.
What was he doing? Getting his hip rubbed or something like that?
He's just getting a manipulation. And I think it was Cam Guthrie. She got a photo of Cam Guthrie doing the exact same pose. He didn't carry on like an idiot.
Did you notice, like, quite interesting, because Geelong, they got a bit of form in this.
Chris Scott abusing that.
Is out in the nightclub toilet. He's playing the next week.
Yeah.
Compare that to what he went through in Bali.
Yeah.
Back club just gets away. They just get away with everything.
Chris Scott abusing a guy who's legally blind. He's a vision impaired journalist who used to work at SEN and everyone. His name's Spike Lee. Like everyone sort of knows that he's a really good fella. And Chris, for some reason, Chris Scott cracked the shits with him. I mean, and again, there's no sanction. It's just like, Chris, don't do it again. They just make me sick, the AFL, with their inconsistencies.
Steve Hocking used to work for the AFL.
Well, exactly right. It's all jobs for the boys. And then I don't know if you boys saw Andrew Dillon on AFL 360 tonight. Just absolutely speaking dribble. Like the guy's got no charisma. It's just all word salad. It's just absolute garbage. He's like a female Kamala Harris.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say this.
All right, Dan. Yeah. Give us yours, mate.
Yeah, look, mine's a bit of low-hanging fruit, which is the Brownlow. Look, I lost a lot of credibility. Not credibility. I lost a lot of interest in the AFL last night. What a mockery. Polling 17 votes, so polling 9 votes in the first, 3 rounds, getting 17 touches a game. I mean, if Nick gets 17 touches a game, there are headlines the next day saying Nick can't handle tag, Nick copying it, this and that. I mean, I don't know. It looked like a lot of commentary has been, I guess, insinuating that there's been some sort of betting scandal or something like that. But I have not seen a player poll that many votes when I think he polled like 12 Brownlow votes and did not get a coach's vote in any of those games.
I did see that, yeah.
One game you can sort of understand a little bit. Okay, well, it's one game, anomalies happen, but every single week. And it's like, hang on a second, like, it just smelt wrong. Like, everything smelt wrong about it. Now, look, I don't think Nick was harshly judged in his voting. I think his voting was pretty accurate to his performance. I got votes when he needed to, and appropriate votes. There was one game, I think he got 42 possessions and a goal, and he against Freo, and he got 1 vote. That I probably would be the only slight that I can think of, but it's just a joke. And to me, it's becoming a bit of a bugbear with me. I never forget that team of the century that was done in 1999, whatever. Collingwood didn't have one player. At that stage, they had the third most premierships behind Carlton and Essendon. Not one player in the team of the century. Not one. Gordon Coventry was on 12.99 goals. Didn't get a look.
Yeah.
No, that's ridiculous. There's a thing here that, and just putting it out there because Ben Zero's just also donated $5 to the channel, so thank you very much. He goes, did you see on AFL 360 Dangerfield was gifted a car from Ford for some voted award? Geelong sponsor, nothing sus. That pretty much goes straight back to your point, Hatterz, in regards to the Cats.
Just conveniently that Ford has been the major sponsor of Geelong for over 100 years, and Dangerfield ends up with a Ford Mustang. Yeah, I bet you that's not. I bet you that's not incorporated into their soft cap.
Just before I do my first jab, what do you reckon Geelong are going to offer Charlie Curnow? Because he doesn't really want the farm; he wants the beach life. Do you reckon they'll get him a nice, beautiful like Airbnb house that he can live in there down at Torquay or something, or what's going to happen there?
I think the biggest the issue for Geelong is what are they going to do for the trade? Like they'll probably be able to afford it somehow because it's either a Cotton On sponsorship or a couple of farms. But it'll be actually how do they do the trade?
Carlton are going to ask for heaven and earth from them.
Carlton, given he's a contracted player, should absolutely screw them over. I'd be asking for 4 players or 4 first round picks as a starting point.
Yeah.
What pisses me off is it's a constant report, and it's another report. Curnow is willing to take less to play for Geelong.
Yeah, of course. We all know why.
Yeah, every single player that goes there, I'm willing to take less.
Yeah.
Come on. Like, it is, to me, it's plainly obvious they're doing something that other clubs aren't, and it's not a lifestyle. Yes, the beach is great. Yeah, the farmland's great, whatever. But, mate, they only stretch it so far. Players are in the AFL window for 2, 3, 4 years, 10 years, 12 years if they're lucky. They want to maximise their income during that period. But every player wants to go along for a reduced salary. Come on, man. It doesn't make any sense. And AFL's like doing some sort of investigation on them.
The funny thing is, a couple of years ago, the person doing the investigation was Steve Hocking. Give me a spell.
Are you serious?
It was.
Well, yeah. Well, he was the footy ops guy. So he was him and the. They've got an audit officer, but the audit guy obviously would be in consultation with the footy ops manager. So, and now he ends up back at Geelong. It's just how convenient. It's just
No, that's a sweep under the rug.
For sure it is.
I'll go
And and I don't want to get all political as well, but I mean just like the whole dodgy deals. What happened with their whole stadium as well for it to get funded? It's all just reeks of just disgusting corruption.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to my first jab really quickly before we move on to the game, and it's probably a good segue because mine is about the preliminary final loss. Now, I do want to put a disclaimer out there for any non-Collingwood supporters that are watching. This first jab does not mean that I think if this free kick was paid, we we're going to win the game, because we were getting beaten pretty much everywhere around the ground. But it's just the momentum swing. It's just what it causes into that last quarter for that last 9.5 minutes. And every week, every year, every game, whenever there is someone going back with the flight of the ball and they make any sort of contact with the player going for it, regardless if he actually spoils the ball, if he makes body-on-body contact with him or chops the arms or anything like that, even if his eyes are on the ball. Now, I know the rule does say that, if the player makes contact with the ball, his eyes are on the ball, it's not a free kick, but the umpire's interpretation has been different of that rule, of what it actually says. The umpires pay it every single time there is the slightest bit of contact that happens to the player marking the ball. If Jamie Elliott was not wearing a Collingwood jumper on that night, that free kick gets paid to him. So that's my first jab for that one there, because it always gets paid, and it's the consistency. And I can understand the argument of people saying, oh, but he hit the ball, he got the ball, blah, blah. That's fine. That's all good.
He didn't hit the ball. If you have a look at it, he didn't hit the ball.
Regardless,
yeah.
I can accept the argument. It was good defending, but that exact same scenario gets paid in every game. And the one where it needed to be paid at a crucial point in the season, not just the game, that needed to be paid. The umpire shut himself. My second jab to that, as tied into that, is going to go on Tim Membry. Go back and kick the goal. Just go back. You're 35 metres out. You're pretty much directly in front of goal. Go back and kick it. Elliott shouldn't have gone for it. Membry should have got the ball and kicked it, because he's done the hospital ball, and it's allowed Starcevic, who had a really good game, he's had a fantastic season, to cover that ground. He should have gone back and kicked the goal, and this never would have happened. So I think that was just a really important part of the game, because if we kicked that goal, who knows what would have happened? We might still have lost, but I think it was just a very important part where we should have just put him to bed, or we should have put that section of the quarter to bed right there and just nailed the goal. So that's my first jab for tonight.
Yeah, and Trace, just pick it up on that. I agree with you. I think Membry probably should have kicked the goal, but the reason, and you have a look at it now, so many players will pass the ball to Elliott or any other player in the same position on the basis of the rule that the front-on contact will be paid a free, whereas in the past it wouldn't be free. So that's why guys are doing that chip over the top, because they know the umpires will pay either chopping the arms or contact on the front of the body. So I can understand why Membry did it. Like you though, I would have liked for him to go back and kick the goal.
I guess with me, probably a second jab, but I've had a gut feel of the media and how they talked about this incident. Being a Collins supporter for over 40 years, the Rocker non-goal, the Maynard block, the Elliott non-paid free, every single time in a major final, we seem to be on the rough end. The only time that we didn't was in 2023, when, in fact, it actually wasn't even a topic of discussion. It was a free kick paid to I think it was Lockie Neal. Bailey chose
the trip,
to take the advantage. He chose.
Yeah.
It's like when someone got a free kick in front of goal, and then a player continues on and has a shot at goal, and they kick a point, and then they get sort of catastrophized for it. We copped in the media constant feedback about that moment. There were people defending the Elliott decision in the media. They were defending. Like, are you fucking serious, mate?
Yeah, just on that. Just sorry to interrupt, but like Jason Dunstall, right? He is, and I find him, pretty on point with a lot of stuff that he says in regards to free kicks and his opinions and stuff. He's not the worst. I don't think he's the worst by a long stretch. So, like Jordan Lewis, like these players, they just anti-Collingwood, whatever. For everybody on that panel to turn around to Dunstall and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? That is a free kick every day. That's saying something. For people who are very anti-Collingwood to turn around and say, that was definitely a free kick. I mean, we know Kane Corns was going to come out and say that it wasn't. It was great defending, blah, blah, blah. But I can tell you now, if Jamie Elliott was wearing a Port Adelaide jumper, if Jamie Elliott was wearing a Hawthorn jumper, if Jamie Elliott was wearing any other jumper besides Collingwood, the AFL world would be 10 times worse than what it is now, screaming about this free kick. But because it was against Collingwood, because Collingwood lost, everybody's like, don't worry about it. That's it. It is as simple as that.
Yeah, that's and I understand why Fly played the straight bat. We act like winners. I get that sort of mentality because he's got a group of players to manage. But as a fan, you would like your coach to come out and say, like what Hardwick does and Chris Scott does, and just says, like puts it on the agenda and says, mate, enough. Like, you can't be doing stuff like this week in, week out. There are games that every week we go to games, and we're looking at which umpires we got. Oh, we're fucked this week. Oh, no, we're not. Yes, we are. It's like
How's his comment? How's his comment here? How's his comment here from Nate Talks Pies? Tom Pepley's goal in the final quarter of the 22 prelim. That's another one. That's really big,
Oh no! Yeah, fucking hell! I was there in that bloody Barongal stand and saw that. Fuck.
Sport and a process is that every supporter that's involved in the game umpires break for a team eventually. You either loved Collingwood or hated them, and umpires. I've got no doubt. I've had this belief for a long time. If they didn't go for Collingwood, those 50-50 calls or whatever you want to call it, subconsciously they're going the other way. And it happens too much in big games.
There was a lot of holding the balls, especially in the first quarter, even when like Brisbane were being tackled and they'd end up throwing the ball out, and even that one where Big O like was grappling for the ball and he literally got it and just like threw it and like tapped it and punched it like that, and it wasn't paid. And then there was another one where I can't remember who it was for. I think side bottom tackled someone, and then he went to put the ball on his foot and kick it, and in the tackle, it's missed his foot. So holding the ball, dropping the ball, whatever you want to call it, the umpire is looking directly at him and has said absolutely nothing, and it was play on. So I don't want to sit here and sook about the umpires all day, but at the end of the day, I mean, there was so many that weren't paid, and there was probably stuff to them that didn't get paid also too. But I think it's just the general consistency this whole year that has just been completely upside down. So we'll move on. We'll move on to the actual game. I'll just start off the convo about the actual game. I just thought our general play, apart from the 40 minutes where we kept them goalless, which I thought was some of our best football that we've done all season, I genuinely thought that apart from that 40 minutes, they just beat us in every aspect, and it actually felt like it was a game of keepings off for such a long time, like just the short 45 kicks, and then they were just making their way in, and then there was a part where they were doing it from the back line, and Cam Rayner's taken the mark. This is at the punt right end, and he's taken a mark in the forward 50 by himself, just kicking back, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if I was angry or disappointed or devastated or whatever, but I just gave up at that stage. I'm just like, we can't even man up with these guys. Like, they're just too quick for us, So, but as I said, that 40 minutes where we kept them goalless and we went into halftime in front, it looked really positive. But within the first 2 minutes of that third quarter, you could just see they were just so much quicker than us and so much smarter around the ball.
Yeah, my opinion of the game is the first probably 5-10 minutes I thought were pretty good. I thought our pressure was sorry, I thought cut out. I thought our pressure was great. We were getting territory. Then Brisbane started to sort of take over. Now, I thought we tried to protect the corridor in the first quarter, especially, and it was good to see. We're sending Brisbane wide. They then said, okay, well, there's nothing to hit off in the middle. We'll go down there. They got a couple of dubious free kicks. That Archie free kick, which I think you alluded to, he was running into goal. It was just after he tackled side bottom and got hold of the ball. He was running into goal, got tackled, dropped it, play on. Nick had no prior, gets done 15 metres out, holding the ball. So I walked into quarter time thinking, okay, we're not playing great, and it wasn't, but I wasn't like, yeah, no, we're way out of this. Then in that second quarter, I was like, yep, they've played the way they want to play. They've blocked the corridor. They're getting small forwards and so forth. That third quarter was just stupidity in terms of stoppages. Brisbane got so many goals from stoppages. It's like, how can you leave someone like Bailey Smith unmarked at a stoppage? Now, that's where I guess you miss Pendles. But if you're relying on someone like Pendles to tell you got to pick up a player like Bailey Smith,
Zach Smith, yeah.
Zach Bailey.
Yeah,
Zach Bailey.
Yeah, if you're
I'm reading comments as well as trying to listen to him. Sorry.
yeah, but if you're relying on that player like Pendle to tell someone to pick up Bailey at a stop, you're kidding yourself. Rayner gets pushed at the back, which you alluded to. A lot of those goals, if they were reviewed and we're playing this week, mate, Flywoods go, what the hell's going on there? That's not what we do. We don't let someone like that free at a stoppage where he ran through. They weren't getting goal side of the person at a stoppage too. They'll hang him behind him. Gave him free run to run towards goal. So a lot of that momentum was created through our own doing. That last quarter goal, Elliott kicks it, 6 points down. Yeah, I'm of the opinion that Brisbane deserved to win, but I saw enough in that game. You put us 6 points down with 9 minutes to go instead of 18 points down with 9 minutes to go because they went up to the goal. We're heading it's not going to be the result that it was. I don't know if we would have won, but I can tell you now that wouldn't have played out how it played out.
No, 100%. And I said it in my review as well. I don't think we would have won even if Membry kicks that goal or Elliott kicks that goal, but it leaves the door open for the what if, and the momentum was on our way. And we've seen over the last 3 seasons what we can do in the last quarter, especially in the last 10 minutes of a game, coming back from behind. We won a premiership doing it. We've seen what we can do in that time. I personally believe that Brisbane would have won still, but you just don't know, and that free kick has to be paid. But as I said in my first jab, I'm putting some of that onus back on Membry because you've just got to grow the balls. You paid the big bucks, go back and kick it, own the moment, and just kick the goal.
Yeah, look, I think it's a completely different last 10 minutes. I just got this feeling that you're 6 points down with the Magpie Army roaring. You'll get a response. The team gets flat. You're 18 points down, which should be 6 points down. And you're like, and that was it. It was game over. But look, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, that anger of that non-decision, and plus there were 2 or 3 goals in the first quarter they got, which I don't think they deserved. Combining that frustration sort of sat with me and it still hasn't gone. Because I'm sick and tired of it. Like, I'm sick and tired of going at games and thinking, how are we going to get screwed today?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but
I'd rather go in there thinking, how are we going to fuck it up today, as opposed to how are they going to fuck it up for us today? 100%. There's that element too. Hatterz, what have you got in regards to the game?
I'm not so sure. Even with that Elliott goal, the possible goal, whether we would have still won. It just seemed to me that Brisbane just always found 1 or 2 goals just to keep us at bay. I know we got in front at half time, and we had that good little patch in the second quarter, but they pretty much clearly outclassed us over the course of the game, and the 5-goal margin was probably really reflective on the whole performance. And I just got to say, so like some of our middle range guys just didn't perform on the night that we would have expected to. I thought like Chris was disappointing. Houston was disappointing. Lipinski was disappointing. Josh Dacos wasn't as influential as he has been.
He was still one of our best, though. He was still one of our best.
But that probably says says a lot for where we were on the night. Goey wasn't as influential. There was a lot of guys that were down on the night, but that's due to Brisbane's good play. And it's going to be. I mean, we'll probably touch on it a bit later. It's going to be an interesting sort of period what we do. I know they'll probably look to have another crack next year, but do we maybe take maybe a little bit of a step back and not say miss the 8, but inject a few of the younger guys on our list that haven't had as much as exposure. So
Yeah, well, we'll probably get onto that a bit later.
What was the? What do you think was the Dan? I'll direct this question to you. What do you think was the one turning point during the game? Because mine was probably there was a goal that Brisbane scored. I think it was it might have been in the first quarter, even though like we came back in the second quarter. I can't remember, but it was to the punt road end where one of their guys did that hack kick out of air from a stoppage, and he's hacked it and he's kicked the goal. And I'm thinking to myself, our goals are coming this game like so labour intensive, you know, like it felt like when we played against Carlton both those times and they were just struggling to score goals against us. It had that sort of feel to it that they were putting that pressure on us and then the ball goes over there and it's just a stoppage and it's just the scrumming ball out of the pack. No one's behind. He kicks it in midair and he kicks a goal. And then I'm thinking to myself, how are we supposed to beat that today if they're just arsing this? And then Cam Rayner kicking goals from the car park, you know, it's just, I'm just thinking to myself, like, how are we meant to stop this? Was there a point that you saw in the game where you just thought, like it's just this is the point now where they're about to break us?
Yeah, it wasn't the first quarter, believe it or not. Obviously, not the second. The first quarter, as I'm over a few decisions their way, our entry in the first quarter into our forward 50 was deplorable. It's been deplorable for probably 6-8 weeks where we're not hitting plays laced out. We're going for the right options, but we gathered and got our true self back in the second quarter. And I thought, well, half time, okay. I thought we were going to run over them. Then how we ran out in the first 10 minutes of that third quarter, the turning point was those stoppage goals that we conceded. It was like the players were pointing at each other, looking at each other, thinking. And you watch the replay, and I've watched that third quarter a couple of times because I just want to know. I was trying to hope it was going to like give me some answers and alleviate some like frustration, but. Like, leaving Zach Bailey free to stoppage. They kicked like 2 goals in the first minute. It's like, what are you doing? You're playing in a prelim final in the third quarter. You come out and, mate, if someone takes a great mark, contested mark, or they kick a long bomb or whatever the case, you can sort of get away. Like, you can sort of understand that, okay, well, it happens. But those goals were easily conceded. And it was like, that's when I went, they're not switched on here.
I felt like they came out that quarter just expecting for them to do what they continued to do. And they just couldn't absorb the pressure out of the middle because we couldn't even get our hands on the ball. I know sometimes you can get your hands on the ball first in the middle and then you lose the clearance, but we couldn't even get our hands on it. Like the ball was on the ground and they were just picking it up and just running. Ashcroft was just running with it. McCluggey just picked up the ball and just went. And I'm thinking to myself, Sidey, where are you? You've had an unbelievable season the whole time. Like, why aren't you on him? Like, the Degoe part I can sort of understand because I think in the second quarter he got stood on his calf and you had to play it out and Pendles had already been subbed off. So I understand that part of it. But we just had apart from that 40 minutes, we just had no pizzazz in the midfield. And then that third quarter, it was literally just keepings off the entire time.
Yeah, it was as I said, it was half time. I was walking in thinking we're going to run over this team, and gut feel says so do they, because this isn't talent, this isn't injury or whatever or lack of pendles. You just don't allow certain players at a stoppage. That's Zach Bailey's Wormwood. His stoppage work. He loves it. Right, put a body on him. I reckon he was sitting there at the start of the third thinking, how good's this? I'm in front, I'm 15 metres out from goal. No one's next to me. And lucky.
And I mean, I'm sure it drove you guys nuts. The constant long bombs straight to Harris Andrews. I mean, at some point, did they not think just kick it 40 metres away from him? And kick it to somebody else?
I think there was a play in that, was it in that third or in that last quarter at the start of it, whatever it is. It was literally just like kick to kick between Houston and Harris Andrews twice. I'm thinking to myself, it felt like when we were playing against Melbourne and Cameron and Gorn are just playing kick to kick with each other. Just switch the play, make him like move, get the ball out. But at the same time too, that's just us not presenting, we just weren't presenting enough. I didn't think.
Yeah, I get. I mean, we've sort of gone from that slingshot rebound footy to keeping it in our forward 50 and trying to score that way. So that's why they tend to go for a lot of these long kicks into pockets and create stoppages and kick goals out of that way. But I think you've still got to adapt on to the game style of the opposition. And we like 2 years ago we won the premiership by basically taking Harris Andrews out of the game for 3 quarters, and it was only the last quarter that he sort of got a little bit of influence, but we still won the game and won the premiership. But we just like the last 2 games we played against the Lions, we just played into their hands by kicking it straight to him so many times.
There's 2 aspects.
It's just
that, in my opinion, is obviously Checkers was clearly injured. Probably shouldn't have played.
Yeah.
We'll get to that now. I do want to get to that part now. So we've spoken about the game and stuff, and we can talk about that all night. Everybody knows the end result and stuff like that. We're not going to really need to dive into who played the best or whatever it is, because there's no tomorrow now, so it doesn't really matter. But just on the selection, because obviously also tonight there was an announcement of some delistings. So obviously there's been some exit meetings that have already happened at the club, which we'll get to in a minute. But before we get to that, just on the selection of this game in particular, my biggest theory is, and I was actually going to thinking about making this my first jab, but I didn't, because they've made some, in hindsight, correct calls throughout the season. But we've been massive on this whole Jared Wade, sports science, conditioning, fit to play, fit to perform and stuff like that. In the biggest game of the year that we played players that may have been fit to play, and I'll say play with quotation marks, but in absolute no circumstance was Checkers able to perform on the night with the way that he was. And that may not have even been with the pain side of things in his foot. I just think up here, it wasn't happening. It wasn't connecting to his body. He just wasn't in the right spots the whole night. He was virtually non-existent. My question to you boys, and I'll ask you, Hatterz, first, did we make a massive mistake with some of these selections for this game?
It's very easy in hindsight to make those calls. I mean, and we don't know. Like, I've heard some stories that said that Mychek wasn't in any pain because the painkillers basically would have numbed everything out, and it didn't affect his running ability. But we don't know. He hasn't been in great form anyway, Mychek, of recent times, and that could be to do. He's had a few different injuries. He had a wrist injury. He's had the toe tendon injury. Quite obviously, how did everything? You have a look at training, and he looked fabulous at training. But under the heat of a preliminary final, he just didn't have the usual sort of rebound ability that Howe normally has.
I felt like he didn't even have any power in his kicks either. His kicks weren't.
And his
leg looked heavy.
And Pendlebury knows his body inside out. So I'm not questioning. Like, some people have said, Pendlebury was selfish to play with the injury coming into the game and all that sort of stuff. You're talking about one of the most. He's one of the most professional guys in the competition. So he knows his body. He would have consulted with the doctors, and like you said, it was a different injury. So that's the risk you play with having an older list. That some of these guys may break down. So we laud the fact that we rely on the experience of these guys in big games, but the risk is that they could get injured as well. So And I think that the fact that they decided to go with Howe and not play Hill was, another factor as well because, I mean, Bobby Hill was fit. We know he was in terms of he was no injury with him. He might not have had the miles in his legs, but I can't see him not being able to perform. But compounding that with Howe coming back, they saw fit not to play Howe and Hill. So it's it ended up being the perfect storm of Pendlebury getting injured in the first opening seconds.
It just made everything look so vulnerable and stuffed everything up.
Yeah. And that's the frustrating part of it all. We don't know. Like if Pendlebury doesn't get injured, how might have been able to get subbed out halfway through the third quarter. Steen comes on as a fresh player. Steele comes on as a fresh player and helps us win the last quarter. But we don't know. It's all if much,
Look, I've heard a bit of talk about weight and all that sort of stuff. It's a lot of crap. If Wade hadn't rested the managed players in the last 6-8 weeks, he would have got crucified.
Yeah.
Why didn't you rest him? I mean, there is no one. We're not sports science people, so it's really difficult to make. Now, footy is a very unique sport, very different from a lot of other sports. Where you get, you're running extreme miles in your legs, and you're getting tackled and bumped and so forth. It's a 360 game or whatever you want to call it. My gut feel is we roll the dice, for one more shot to get squeeze them out. We were flying in July. 3 games clear, and that's why it hurt so much because we were 3 games clear. Like we were. I didn't think we'll be out in the prelim, but the reality is, footy's a young man's game. People, side bottom, how my check, their form dipped now for various reasons. But the common theme to me is they're not young anymore. And I think Wade done the right thing by giving them a couple. Your 3 games clear. Why would you play them week in, week out, 27 weeks? That would be mad. I don't agree with that opinion that it's Wade's issue. I just don't believe that at all. I just feel that we unfortunately got to the point in the year. And
did you feel like it was the perfect storm though, coming in like and it all just happened all at once? We had ourselves in a really good position with the management and stuff coming into this game, and it was just a couple of players who had that little bit of an injury cloud. But then, as Hatterz said before, the domino effect just felt that as soon as Pendles went out in that game, then it all just got exposed pretty quickly.
Yeah, look, you got Bobby Hill. Obviously, he had his personal issues, and he wasn't going to be the Bobby Hill if he had a play. I wanted him to play, but he wasn't going to be the Bobby Hill that we sort of cut. But you can't possibly play or not play footy for 10 weeks or whatever it was, and then go into and expect to be at your best. You can't. It just doesn't happen.
I think we were probably about 2 weeks too late for him, because if we had have come in, let's say the preliminary final game was around the time where we had played Melbourne, maybe then he gets a run leading into the final sort of thing. But I think he was just a little bit too far gone, and the season was coming around a little bit too quickly.
If you look at the injuries, we don't know what's wrong with my check. He had a toe, whatever, but his form before that was a bit Pendlebury. Then you had players like Sidebottom. Their form wasn't as good as what it was, in the first half of the year. They just ran out of juice, in my opinion. You get later, list changes, that is. But I just think they physically just ran out of juice.
Well, we'll get to the list changes now because, like, obviously that's what we thought about the selection, but we have been told that there is 4 delistings that have happened, and obviously then I'm going to add, obviously, the retirement of Will Hoskin Elliott to that mix as well. So far tonight we said goodbye to Oleg Markov. Now, I'll start with him quickly. I'll just get you guys' opinions, just a yes or no on these players. Markov has been delisted, 2023 Premiership player, did get delisted last season and re-picked up as a rookie. So obviously the writing was sort of on the wall, did come in and help out when we needed him to help out. He didn't have anything over the top. He didn't have like an over the top good game or anything like that. He was just, I think passenger's probably the wrong word to use, but, you know, he didn't have any major influence in the games, and some of the games he came on as a sub quite late. So just a yes or no, are you guys okay with the Markov delisting, or would you prefer to see him go one more year, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, I think he's done his job for the club, Markov. You know, he played the premiership. You know, we've given him like another 2 years. Time for someone like Jacob Ryan to step up into that position that Markov might sort of might have filled the last couple of years.
Yeah, I'm
Dan?
happy.
Yeah.
Ultimate clubman, love Leggy.
Yeah.
Can't say a bad word. Feel his person. Yeah.
Ash Johnson, obviously the writing was on the wall last season. I think they just didn't delist him because he still had a year to go on his contract. I did feel as if, though, you know, pretty stiff for him breaking his leg in the twos, because just before he broke his leg in the twos, he was actually an emergency for the senior boys. So for the AFL squad, just before he did break his leg, so he didn't get the opportunity to try and at least crack into the side for a few weeks, but we have said goodbye to him. I'm okay with it. He had some moments in 22 and 23. But yeah, I think that was pretty much on the wall. You guys think the same with that one?
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's quite a bit of talent in Ash Johnson, but I just question whether the application's there.
Yeah.
So yeah, they had to delist him.
Yeah, agree. Yeah, nice guy. Like I've met him.
Yeah,
really polite, nice. But like Turtle said, just some players aren't built for AFL. The professional that it takes to become a player, but he's got talent. But yeah, I agree.
Charlie Dean, I think he was always one major injury away from getting delisted anyway after the foot stuff. And if it wasn't for him stuffing his foot up, Markov doesn't really get the opportunity to come into the side and be a premiership player. So, you know, everything's sort of related in this sense here. But I'm okay with the Charlie Dean delisting. I wouldn't be surprised if they picked him back up as a rookie or anything like that. But I just don't think he has I think he's got the footy brains. I think Charlie Dean's one of those players where if he goes back and plays in VFL for, you know, a standalone club or an AFL affiliated club or whatever, he's going to be that too good for VFL, but then there's a gap and then there's like the AFL boys and he's somewhere just on the fringe in the middle there. I just think he'll be too good for VFL in defence, but not as good to make the AFL side. So I'm okay with him being delisted. But then if you look at these delistings, you know, you've got 2 defenders in there that have been now delisted. You'd think that we're looking to fill those holes pretty quickly in the squad. And I think that gives TJ and Jacob Ryan a huge opportunity now to bump their spot in. But I'm okay with the Charlie Dean delisting. Hatterz?
Yeah, well, I'm a bit of bias here, given that Charlie come from Williamstown, and I got to see some of Charlie's best football when he played for Williamstown. Unfortunately for him, just the injuries crawled him, and one of his best assets was his ability to move and read the play, but he just hasn't been able to capture that again at the AFL level since those injuries. And you know, I feel sorry for him because he's copped a fair bit of criticism from Collingwood supporters who probably never saw him play well at VFL level for Williamstown. You know,
and I mean he's very highly rated. I mean in terms of as a person within the club, but yeah, he's just injuries have got him, and you know, I mean it's sometimes it's a ruthless industry AFL, and yeah, they had to delist him unfortunately.
Yeah, look, 2 years of basically missing footy due to your feet. Not the first person that Collins had a foot issue. But the good news is we've hired a new podiatrist, which is great.
Yeah,
I didn't see much of Charlie at Williamstown like Turtle did. But I remember his first game in the Cup when he got drafted, and I went, yeah, he's all right. He can move all right. He's a good interceptor. He could be a player. Then he got injured. So that was the most.
yeah,
And missing 2 years of footy when you've had no AFL experience is always going to be a very difficult ask to come in, rehab it, and then debut or whatever you want to call it, and then expect it was injuries that hurt him. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to see the best of him, but it was the right decision.
Just quickly too, before we move on to the next one, Age M's left a comment here. Says, "My man TJ, come on, got to play in bloody hell to get no games this year was shameful. He had a hip injury this season. I actually spoke to him at the Brisbane game when I went down into the Collingwood Social Club. He was out the front there with Di Matteo and stuff, and I said to him, I go, "You ready for next season?" And he said yes. But I said, "How's the hip?" And he goes, "Much better." So he had a hip injury that he copped earlier in the season, and then Jacob Ryan was obviously he had that foot injury, which was sort of timeline. If he had done it at the start of the season, maybe towards the back end, he would have been pushing for a spot coming in. But at least we've got two guys there that can play in the defence that have already had a taste of senior footy, and that we can try and bleed into the side. The next one is the last delisting of the night that's been announced tonight, and that was Finn McRae. Now, I'm a little bit I'm okay with the delisting. I'm fine with it. But I think it's just a disappointment that, when we got him, if he was half of what his brother was, then we may have found something pretty good, especially when his brother was at his peak at the Dogs. But I just feel like he didn't suit our style, especially under fly. And then sometimes he'd look okay, and then other times he'd look a little bit too slow. I don't know how you boys read on it, but I think and then obviously this season he had the shoulder injury as well, which I think was the writing was on the wall there. But what do you boys think with this one? Was it worth giving him maybe another year, or are you happy with his delisting?
I think he's had. I know he had injury this year, but he just seems to. He never really grasped his opportunities when he played. At times he was used a bit as a sub, which I think probably inhibits the way your development goes. But even when he was given a good crack at it in the midfield, he might just play like one quarter, and then you just go completely missing in other parts of the game. So I just frustrating being a first round pick to be delisted already. Very disappointing. Not disappointing from the fact that the club's done it, but the fact that he hasn't performed up to a level where we've kept him on the list.
Once again, he's a good kid. Didn't cause the club any issues in terms of off field and that sort of stuff. When we drafted him, I thought if he's got half the foot skills that his brother does, and at that time we were crying out for skillful midfielders, and I was really excited for him, but unfortunately didn't pan out. That draft will haunt us, and it will haunt us probably next year and beyond, because they should be in their prime right now.
I think Nate just beat you to it in the chat. He just goes 2020 draft, Finn McRae, pick 19, Max Holmes at pick 20. Whoops.
No.
Look, I'm sure there's another time. Our drafting hasn't been, in my opinion, great for about 5 years. Bo, McCreary, West, and Harrison are three players that I really rate. Then you've got Dryaf, potentially Ryan, who's had a few injuries, and Cochrane, that I don't mind. Still, this year's been great, but other than that, there isn't.
I've still got a bit of faith in Di Mattia once he gets an opportunity in the seniors. I think he once he got moved onto the midfield in the second part of the VFL season, he really pushed for selection a number of times. So
my issue with Di Mattia, which look, I hope he can be that in and under sort of midfielder that we sort of are crying out for to replace a Mitchell. He a lot of his kicks, they're not penetrating. They're more lofty kicks. Every time he kicks the ball, it's more of a lofty kick. It's not a chisel kick. So you know what? You're not always going to get that with in and under midfielders. I understand that. Like Matt Rowell's not a great kicker. You know, I get it. I'm not comparing to Matt Rowell, but when you look at someone like Ed Allen, he's the same. His kicking is very lofty. A lot of it isn't piercing. It's that lofty kick, which doesn't cut it in AFL because AFL is so much faster than VFL that when you loft your kicks, there's a turnover, players can close space and so forth. And they're very lofty kicks. But look, I think that our next 2 years in trade and draft are going to be the most vital 2 years for a while because we haven't exactly got it right for the last 5. We've traded well. Like we've got Houston and Perryman and Schultz, and we've got some good names in Membry, Frampton. We've even got Markov. So we've traded well, but I'm not 100% convinced that our youngsters coming through are going to make a huge difference in the next 1 or 2 years. But we'll see.
So the next one that we've got there is the retirement, which we knew from a few weeks ago. Couldn't break back into the side. Probably wouldn't have broken into the side if we had made the grand final. And that's Will Hoskin-Elliott. Just ultimate clubman. The Swiss Army knife, can play anywhere. You give him a job, he'd get it done. And if he didn't get it done, at least he was just the backup that we always needed to fill that spot. I mean, I think the only place he really couldn't play was probably the ruck, but you could put him anywhere in the ground, full forward, taking screamers, intercept marking down back, play him on the wing, half forward, half back. I think he's definitely worth a shout out. It's going to be sad not having him in the side. But at the same time, too, I think you could sort of tell this season it just slowly started to taper off. Like he'd come on, make an impact and stuff like that. But I think maybe the game this season just went that little bit past him at some points. What are your boys' thoughts?
Yeah, well, he had a fantastic career at Collingwood. No superstar, but just one of those sort of pretty reliable sort of guys that I think like that 2018 season he kicked about 45 goals, played well obviously in 2023 as well. We could use him forward line, back line, wing. You look at those dying stages of both the preliminary final and the grand final. He was right there in a couple of clutch moments. But I think in terms of him retiring, it was a good decision by him to retire, and we had to sort of bleed out a few of these guys in a staggered sort of motion. We couldn't just let everyone go at once. So, well, I can't really say much more. Really good career at Collingwood, and I really admired him. He was a bit of a whipping boy for some fans, but I think he sort of just had to accept for what he could do for the side, and his ability for both Buckley and for McRae to play both ends of the ground was really good for the club.
Yeah, I love Wilbur. No fuss, no headlines for the wrong reasons. Once again,
Yeah.
Was no superstar in terms of, but he, that what Turtle said, those moments in the prelim and the granny, he was the last person, pretty much to almost touch the ball. He found a way to take, take a calming mark or get a calming kick, or he was a good player and he great of his career, and wrapped your head in.
So we move on to obviously the list management side of things, and before we wrap up tonight's episode, there's just a couple of players that I did want to mention. Obviously, there's contract talks now with Jamie Elliott, and Bozza was spamming the chat before, and I was like, don't spam it just yet with that, but I'll bring it. I'm not going to scroll back up now, but apparently our man John Ralph, the greatest journalist of all time, is reporting on the midweek tackle that he does want to stay at Collingwood. He wants to be a one-club player. So if that is any sort of truth to the situation that Jamie finds himself in, I think it's more or less he's just trying to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before he puts the pen to paper for the last couple of years of his contract. So, whether it's 2 or 3 years, just get it done, Collingwood. You need him there, regardless. The one that I really wanted to point out, and I get your opinion, Hatterz, is if Checkers is getting the offer he's getting from North Melbourne or Melbourne based on the last bit of the season this year, if he was to go, would you begrudge him or anything like that at all?
Oh, no way. I mean, the guy's, he's been a battering ram his whole career at Collingwood. You could never, ever question his commitment to play Brody Mychek. He's been a warrior for the club. So if he wants to explore, the options of going to Melbourne or North Melbourne for a lucrative contract, there couldn't be a Collingwood supporter that begrudges him going. And, realistically, I think in terms of development for us, it may not help us win the premiership next year, but by Mychek not being there and giving Charlie West more games, that will be the win-win. I think it gets games into Charlie West, whereas if Mychek's there, Charlie West may not get as many games. And then conversely, Mychek, say if he goes to Melbourne, he gets to play regular footy, he gets to play in the MCG, not in front of big crowds, but still at the MCG, and Melbourne gets to pay superannuation fund.
Yeah, well, that's true. Now, your thoughts on that one, Dan? You okay if Checkers goes?
Yeah, I agree with what Peter said, 100%. Love Checkers. Was in tears in the rooms after the prelim. I think Gutfeld says he knows that was his last game for the Pies. And that's okay. He started footy late as a mature age, 24.
24, yeah.
He needs a payday, I guess. He didn't have the years from an 18-year-old, so love him. Always going to be a Magpie. Wish him well. And I think he's gone, but wish him well if he does leave to another club. Warrior, never questioned, but yeah. So, but yeah, disappointing that so I love seeing him play, but I think Charlie West, he's going to be.
I think Charlie West takes priority. I think in this situation, it does, which is unfortunate.
And it's the only way you're going to be able to regenerate the list. I mean, why the likes of Hawthorn and Geelong, in this modern era of footy, have been so good is that they've allowed their premiership stars to go to other clubs. Hawthorn let Mitchell go to West Coast. They let Hodge go to Brisbane, right? Geelong have let some premiership players go or retired them off and integrated younger players into a team that's already got experience.
They didn't hang on too long. They just didn't hang on for that one season too long or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, and this is what I think. What Lepage and Charlie Gardner are trying to do with Collingwood, they've seen the successful models of these other clubs, and people are saying, just pay Mychek all the money, pay the Jamie Elliott all the money,
but you've got to be diligent in terms of your list, who you're letting go and who you're paying, and you've also got to give opportunities to the young guys on your list as well, to keep yourself up there, because we don't want to just keep everyone on the list and then just end up being like the Eagles and just being like rubbish for 5 years.
Yeah, well, Ben Zero's just said that in the chat. He put up here, he goes, Richmond is what happens if you do it all at once, and the Eagles. But I think the saving grace of Richmond was they've got 3 premierships behind them, so you can deal with 5 to 8 years being on the bottom if you've got 3 flags within 4 years just behind that. So
I actually don't mind what Richmond have done, because they actually pulled the Band-Aid off early. They didn't wait too long and wait like 3 or 4 years into they decided to go a bit earlier, and they've still got some good premiership players there who are teaching these young guys how to develop. They got Nathan Broad and Floston and these sort of guys developing the talent of Richmond kids, and that's what we want to do, is that they give Ed Allen some more games with Pendlebury, give Charlie West games with Membry and other guys in our forward line with Schultz and Elliott, so that they can develop together.
For me, I think our biggest weakness is the midfield. When I say weakness, is players like next year, players like Sideball, they shouldn't be, and Chris for that matter, they shouldn't be stalwarts in the midfield. I'd rather them play sideball and forward, maybe Pendle's half back, Chris back pocket, because what Brisbane showed us on the weekend, they will just be quick and fast out of that midfield. Our focus needs to be midfielders. Now, where I'm concerned, just moving into the trade period, I touched before, is what's coming through. It would have been great if a McRae, Allen, and Demetia were banging down the door and they were the next wave. I'm not convinced any of them are. So we need to try a few things, whether that's Perriman. We recruited him with the idea that we had injuries down back with Howell and so forth, so he often filled gaps down back. Perriman, Dan Houston.
Perryman and Houston are the 2 that you have to throw in there, because Josh Dacos I know he's had some great times in the midfield this season, but his halfback work this season was elite. And I know he had that game against Gold Coast in the midfield, and we can rant and rave about it all we want, but that's just not realistically. You can't have that every single week. I know his brother's pulling it out at the moment, but that's not the point. The point is we've got Dan Houston there, and the way our defensive structure works, it's so different to Port Adelaide. He needs to be playing more forward of the ball. Put him in the middle, put him on the wing, let him do his thing. Let him do his thing next season. And then if there is a hole down back, then put him if you need to. If there's a hole in the back line or something like that for a game here and there, who cares?
Houston's ability forward of the ball, we've seen how easy does he kick a goal from long distance. We've got to utilise him a lot better than what we did this season.
Wing his preferred option, because I don't think he can play in the middle. His wing is what you guys are thinking, or is that?
I think the wing. I think the wing for Houston is good, because I think actually, I'd rate Houston on the wing more than Lipinski. I think Lipinski is interchange, come on, help out sort of thing, and I think he's a player that really, if we're any sort of chance next year to go again, then players like Pat Lipinski have to be struggling for their spot and not like a favourite pick from fly every week. We've got to challenge him. Just quickly before we move on, before we finish up, there's 2 names that I want to give you guys, and that's Tom Mitchell and Mason Cox. Do we give them a contract again for next season? We'll start off with you, Dan, with Tom Mitchell. Do you think Tom Mitchell goes around one more year?
No. He been a great pickup, appreciate player, but no, he's not someone that I would keep on the list. I think we need to rejuvenate that midfield. Him or Long, in my opinion, aren't the answers for that inside mid for our next premiership team. So, Cox, look, Steen and Smith aren't ready yet. Maybe Steen a little bit more ready than Smith. Cox has that second backup ruckman. He's probably okay. I wouldn't like to see him holding down a key forward position and pitching in the ruck next year. But as a backup ruckman, if Darcy was to let it break or he got injured, that would be okay. So Cox I would keep just for that backup ruckman position, but not in the position that he played the prelim in. I just don't feel that in forward pitching in the ruck, we have to move past it. It's just not going to work. Yeah, that's my thoughts on the two.
Hatterz?
I'm a Tom Mitchell fan, but again, similar to what Dan says, I think comes a point where you've got to move some guys on at a certain time to give other guys opportunities. And if Tom wants to keep playing AFL, it might be best if he goes somewhere else. And also in regards to Cox, again, if we're drafting Zach McCarthy, as I expect we will do, I think Cox might have to go elsewhere as well. And if that means that we are a little bit diminished in the ruck next year in terms of experience, so be it. We're just going to have to deal with Cameron and Oscar Steen probably being the combo and playing Zach McCarthy as a forward and a minor, give some chop out to Cameron next year.
I just don't know if McCarthy will be fully ready though, if he's going to be ready to go for the season. That's why I was thinking about this, exactly the same sort of scenario, especially because like with Cox, you've got to take in the aspect of the forward line as well.
But Andres, we can't keep all these older guys together at the one time. You have to bleed them 100%. Out.
Yeah.
And I'm fine. As much as I want to win the premiership next year, if we take a step back and, finish 8th and we've got games into McCarthy, West, GF, all these guys, I'm fine with that, That's the way then we can genuinely then rebound a lot more quickly in 27, 28 than going to the well again with all these older guys and getting to maybe the second week or even another preliminary final, but not being a realistic premiership chance.
I do agree with one of those points. Is I think Cox would be great as a backup ruckman if they feel that they've got another crack here.
Yeah. But you can only keep so many rucks on your list, though, because what are you going to do in the VFL? Like who's going to... Yeah.
So if they get, say, Stephen May, and they get a few... Well, who knows who they got sort of bringing in. After the trade period, if they've got a few... If they've topped up again and they feel they've got another crack, you have to keep Cox, because I don't think Steen or McCarthy will be ready for that backup ruck if Cameron gets injured. However, if that trade period that's coming up, if they don't feel that they can go again, which is a bit surprising because you got Pendles and Sidey going again and Hell, so you'd be thinking, well, let's go again. But if they feel that they don't have another shot in them, then absolutely drop Cox off, play Steen, so be it, reload. But I guess that's the double-edged sword. I don't know if we have one more shot in us again. Gut feel says I'm going to wait until after the trade period to see who we pick up. You pick up a Stephen May, Jack Buller, who knows, someone on the field.
Well, there's another one. Like if we're bringing in both Buller and McCarthy as two younger guys, I just don't see how Cox can retain a spot on the proper senior list. Maybe if he wants to be a rookie, but I mean, at this stage of his career,
you won't get time. He won't get game time. He'll just be playing twos the whole year if that's the case.
Yeah. So that's what I'm getting at. Like if we want to develop next year, Buller, West, and McCarthy
he plays a couple of games. I mean, you're probably right, Andres. He probably won't be ready for senior footy, but sometimes these kids, I mean, there's huge raps on him, and he's 200 centimetres and he's athletic, so he might just develop all of a sudden in the pre-season. So
where's he going to go? Curiosity, like what's he?
There's talk of him being somewhere between 20 to 30.
Okay, so not like top end, like not like top.
Well, I think I heard Jen say that the Swans might bid on him at, I think it was like pick 14 or 15.
Yeah, okay, so 14, 15 is pretty high. So it's a fair wrap on him. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, the trade period pretty much starts on the 6th of October and it goes through till Wednesday the 15th. I think it's the usual. What is it? The 5 p.m. deadline when the bell rings and only submitted paperwork gets approved or whatever.
So the great trade radio goes on and on and on.
The bell rings and stuff like that. It's the silly season, especially for those that support the 17 sides that haven't won the premiership. It's probably our most exciting part since anyone's been knocked out of the finals or your season's ended. So we'll reconvene, I think, somewhere in between that trade period, which really is only about 2 weeks, in about 2 weeks' time or so we can see what happens. And I'm sure there'll be other news and delistings and stuff like that that'll happen along the way. But unfortunately,
and the Copeland Trophy would have been won and done too.
Yeah. I think that
is Kane Corns on trade radio.
Well, probably, yeah, he would be.
Probably in the morning. In the mornings.
I won't be listening.
The trade radio is the best sort of in that afternoon period. You get Sam Edmund, Tom Morris. They're probably the Damo's on. They're probably the two best ones there. But then you've, SEN's got everything and stuff like that. But
did you hear that clown? Corns? Did you hear?
About delisting Perryman? That was one of my backup. That was one of my backup first jabs. But I'm like, I really want to talk about the free kick, so I didn't.
Right.
What?
Fuck, he's an idiot.
Yeah, this is the thing, but this is the thing with Cornsey. I am one of those people, and I know you guys are going to hate me. I'm one of those people where I actually don't mind a lot of his opinions, but then as soon as he opens, and this is very hypocritical, I know, but I'm a Collingwood nuffy, so I can say it on my channel. The second he starts talking about Collingwood in any sort of negative way, I start freaking out. Like, I see the different side of him. But then when he's talking about other clubs, I'm like, you know what? He's actually got a point there, blah, blah, blah. But then the second he talks about Collingwood, even when he pumps us up and he's so contradicting to what he was a few months before or whatever, it just fucking does my head in.
Mate. Hutchie's not a dumb bloke. Hutchie's got him onto SEN, right, and Channel 7 to generate clickbait, right? I lived in Adelaide in late 98 and all through 1999, and Graham Corns, right, was the number one footy guy in SA at the time. And Graham Corns used to do exactly the same thing as Kane. He would say stuff just for the sake of saying things, and it would generate debate on radio. This is like before, obviously, the big internet forums and all that. The Adelaide Advertiser would create stories, and they would feed each other, with stories. And Kane's doing exactly the same thing. Like he speaks this stuff about getting up early, doing the work, doing the research, right? But how he could not see that Perryman was valuable to Collingwood just because a guy doesn't get 35 possessions every week doesn't mean he's not valued to a side and their structure.
I thought structure-wise, he's been actually unbelievable for us this year. He's just been that quiet assassin in defence.
I worked him out.
Yeah.
He started here. He said Collingwood's strategy is wrong. They're not making finals. They're too old. They were on top of the ladder, and he had to eat his own words. And he was been death riding them the whole year. They're 3 games on top. They're 3 games on top. and the whole year he was still death riding him. It's like, mate, I stopped watching footy shows that he's on just for the sake of it, because what Jimmy Bartel, James Third, all right, Matthew Lloyd, they'll tell you the good and the bad in a diplomatic way, but that guy's just a fuck with. Yeah.
Boys, I do have one sort of little announcement I wanted to make before we go, before we turn it off for the night. I've got a 3-part series season review of 2025, which is going to be airing on the channel over the next, I'd say probably over the next fortnight or so. So it'll be myself, Mick Sacker from the Magpie Army Chronicles, and also Nate from Nate Talks Pies, who's been pumping the chat tonight. So I've tried to get all his comments on there. We're going to review and do a season review, season review for this year, and then obviously have a bit of a chat about what we can have looking forward. So that'll be good. So it'll be pre-recorded videos. It won't be a live or anything like that. So you can all watch it in your own time. But boys, we will reconvene for the Sherrin stand during the trade period, and we'll be able to talk about the Copeland Trophy and, you know, if there's any sort of more delistings and stuff. So we're going to have, excuse me, we're going to have a lot more content to obviously go from. Just because the season's finished doesn't mean that we stop. We keep going. I'll give you guys a break over Christmas, don't worry, but you guys get my ratings up, so that's the main thing. Any final words, boys, before we drop off?
Who are we tipping or hoping for the grand final? I'm hoping the Lions win by a point in extra time.
I honestly, is very similar to last season. Don't care. But there is a part of me that would love Brisbane to win for 2 reasons. We can turn around and say beating Brisbane in grand finals isn't for everybody, just for us. But the other thing is to at least we get to say that we got knocked out by the team that eventually won the flag. We got knocked out by the best team. So there's that part in it. So Dan, what are you thinking?
I love Fagan. I do like the Lions, but I don't like Zorko. He's an absolute tool. He's about the only one I like, and Reina. But I don't like their supporters if they're Lions, you know, like how they're trying to roll up the crowd.
Hey, it's better than the Geelong.
Oh, mate, you know what? Geelong, I can't stand. Chris Scott, everything about Geelong, I can't stand. I'll be going for Brisbane, but I think Geelong's going to give him an almighty lesson.
Probably.
I think it's going to be an absolute.
I'm hoping it's like 2003, where we beat Brisbane in the first final and they flipped it round in the grand final. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, look, it is what it is, mate. We're not there, so I just don't wish.
I'm doing the tiles, the tiles under the veranda. Me and the missus are ripping them up, and we're getting them all relaid and stuff. So we're doing that. We're doing that on grand final day, and I'll have the game in the background, just wishing I was there. But anyway, it is what it is, boys. Thank you so much for jumping on tonight. We will reconvene in a couple of weeks and talk about any latest news for everybody that's been on the channel tonight. Thank you so much for jumping on. It's been great. We've been going for an hour and 20 so minutes, and there's still so much more that we could possibly talk about, but we'll leave it for the next episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and as always, go the Pies.
Go Pies.
Garner Woods.